So the Ethereum revenge rally is continuing, and we also have Coinbase adding Ethereum to its treasury. Let's go ahead and dive in. So we've all seen this chart that I've been talking about here for quite some time now. Now, what was interesting was Mr. Ted Pillows here, he had retweeted out my chart, but I don't mind if people use my chart or whatnot, but I mean, you could at least just give me a shout out or something, or some type of credit instead of just recreating it and then acting like it's yours. I'm a pretty nice guy. I don't mind, but just a little at Leo Alonza, Anyway, so let's go ahead and continue on. So Ethereum is rallying up some more. So we're going to go ahead and zoom in here and take a look. And you can see that price got right up to that 2,500 zone that I talked about yesterday in the video, where I would anticipated that would be a resistance point for us. As you can see, price kind of lagged in that price territory there. So it kind of gets congested. So we bounced off of it. Now we're consolidating just below. So I do expect that at some point we're going to get through there. Right now it's unclear. It's just consolidating. It could just pause here for a day or so, or it could just start going higher right now. It's hard to say. What is interesting though is that the Solana chart is looking like Solana Ethereum is wanting to break down. We have this rising wedge on the Solana Ethereum, and once this starts to break, it's interesting whenever you start to see two patterns on two unrelated charts, basically. And unrelated, what I mean is like we're seeing a bearish pattern on Sol Ethereum, but we're seeing a bullish pattern on Ethereum itself, right? So we have this massive bull flag that goes all the way back to November 2021. So that would imply two things. Either Ethereum is about to dramatically outpace Solana, causing the Solana Ethereum ratio to go down, or something really bad is going to happen with Solana. I'm leaning more so on Ethereum just skyrocketing and outpacing Solana because of the bullish pattern over here on Ethereum. And then what's also interesting is that Peter Brandt, who he says, I usually go out of my way not to say anything good about Ethereum. You can call it hating. I guess you'd be right. But this congestion pattern could support a moonshot. So even though I've been attacked quite a bit for my bullish post on Ethereum, and some people have loved it, the bears now, they can't ignore it. They cannot ignore this massive bull flag on Ethereum. And so why is that? Well, that's because Ethereum is a scarce store of value that is responsible for securing this entire tokenized economy that's being built out on Ethereum, the ecosystem. This is something that I stress a lot. When people think of Ethereum, you need to think of that as being equivalent to the internet. Whenever you think of the internet, you think of everything that's built out on the internet. You think of Google, Amazon, YouTube, you think of emails, you think of banking, you think of all these different things. That's essentially what Ethereum is going to be. It's the next evolution of the internet. And now that's the ecosystem. So that's everything that can be built out on top of it. And then you have like Ethereum, the store of value asset, which is very similar to oil in a lot of ways because it can be burned for transactions. It can be used as collateral and strategically held. So there's a lot of parallels there. But I just want to draw the distinction where you have this ecosystem very similar to the internet. And so what we're seeing play out on a massive scale with these institutions is they're building layer 2s, solutions on top of the Ethereum layer 1. They're building, tokenized real world assets like tokenized treasuries, tokenized, stable coins, stocks. We just got an announcement yesterday that they're accelerating the approval for securities to be tokenized onto the blockchain. They don't explicitly say Ethereum, but Ethereum is the most decentralized and secure and trustless platform. And if you want to have global reach, meaning if you're a company and you want to make the most amount of profit possible, it has to be on a decentralized system. That way people across the world don't have to trust a third-party actor. It's on a decentralized platform that makes it trustless. So continuing on with the news here, we can move on. So breaking, whales are buying Ethereum like never before in history. Send ETH to 3. That's a little bearish there, Mr. Crypto Goose. You might want to put a couple more zeros on that number. So we can see here how the total balance is absolutely going vertical. And again, this is lining up with this massive bull flag on the weekly time frame. So moving forward, just in 10 trillion asset manager BlackRock meets with SEC crypto task force to discuss staking, options, tokenization, and ETF approvals. Now, we talked about this before on the channel, how I thought that as soon as the Pectra upgrade would go through, that this is what would happen. I thought that this is what BlackRock is waiting for. They wanted to have that little bit, not a lot, but a little bit of risk launching staking Ethereum ETFs just before a big upgrade to the network. So now that the upgrade went smoothly and everything is operating fine, now they're like, okay, let's go ahead and get these staking ETFs approved. So once this gets posted, I expect that they will be approved fairly quickly. And so that's going to drive a lot of demand for the Ethereum ETF because think about it, you have staking now, which means that investors can earn, I believe it's roughly like 3% yield. It depends on what kind of a cut that BlackRock is going to take. But you're earning 3% yield. You have options, meaning you can sell covered calls if you're holding that to boost your yields even further. So Ethereum staking is actually going to become a very, very attractive option now. And so what's going to fuel this rally that I believe is going to happen to 80,000? Well, if you think about, you have to understand the dynamics of how stock trading works. Well, so like you don't have I'm not trying to compare Ethereum itself to a stock, but trading an asset, it depends on scarcity of the asset. And what's happening where you have staking, that it effectively takes the available amount of shares or tokens or commodity, whatever it is, and it shrinks them. So there's not as much available to be traded. So it's not exactly like reducing the overall supply, but the dynamic is the same in that the coins are not there to be bought because they're locked up in staking protocols. You can think of it almost like a certificate of deposit. And once you get a large amount of them staked, it's not as if you can immediately withdraw them. There is an exit queue. And if you have a lot of people wanting to exit, it can take a few days, 8 hours. It can take a little while for it to get processed. So it's not as if that money can suddenly flood onto the market to sell. So what you have, which is very unique with Ethereum, is you can almost think of it like putting oil back in the ground, making oil more scarce. And then demand for that oil is surging while more oil is being put away. So a lot of people, they ask and they question, why would it go this high? And that's one of the reasons, is because as more and more Ethereum gets staked, the supply available to be bought is going to become much more scarce. And then you also have this dynamic where people are going to start holding it as treasury reserve. So if we come over here and take a look at what Coinbase just did, Coinbase has 137,000 in their Coinbase treasury reserve. So this is going to be a trend that we're going to start seeing with more and more companies, and Ethereum is going to become extremely scarce. I'm talking from a market standpoint, it's going to be more scarce than Bitcoin in many ways, especially with the, going back to what I was saying about the economy on Ethereum. As that becomes more active and we get into a deflationary burn type of environment where the supply is actively being reduced, this creates a situation where, imagine if all the world's oil was out of ground, and then suddenly we started putting that oil back in the ground while supply is while demand is skyrocketing, and what little oil is actually above ground still is being burnt away. So it creates this massive supply shock dynamic that can drive the price to just ridiculous levels, or at least that's the theory anyway. So moving on, apparently Vice President J.D. Vance is going to speak at the 2025 Bitcoin conference. So if you're into that sort of thing, you can check that out. And I think that pretty much wraps up today's video. You have any questions, leave in the comment section down below, and I'll talk to y'all next time.